So I thank immensely Dr. Kalpana specifically and organizing committee of mid-year conference of TPSR for allowing me for the virtually presenting this topic, that is endometrial receptivity. I thank whole Madurai Society for their warmth, love, and association. And I seek blessings from Meenakshi Devi that they bless us with the knowledge and the peace. So human endometrium is a something unique tissue in our species, and no other tissue proliferate, differentiates, loves over and over again, cycle after menstrual cycle for up to 45 years, which is a complex multifactorial task. And when we want endometrial receptive to developing embryo, it should allow attachment of blastocyst and ensuring trophoblastic invasion, as well at the same time prevent overly aggressive incursion by invasive trophoblast so it does not penetrate and rupture uterus. And if there is no implantation, endometrium has responsibility to shade off to restart again in the anticipation of next potential pregnancy. So endometrial receptivity, it is a complex subject which appears simple. It is much more than an adhesive glue. Otherwise, any trash embryo could adhere to the endometrium, and there is no simple task to assess the function of the dynamic endometrium and understand or diagnose the reason for its abnormalities. And the device treatment, which can repair an endometrium that does not appear to be functioning correctly. And that is the complexity of the issue of endometrial receptivity. We all know as an infertility expert as well as the gynecologist that human implantation is highly complex and multifactorial process, and the successful implantation need presence of healthy embryo, the receptive endometrium on the other side, then the synchronized and successful molecular dialogue between two, and the immune protection from the host, and that result into successful or the failure of pregnancy. So how we understand that endometrium works? So there is a endometrial, what is defined as endometrial receptivity? It is a period of endometrial maturation during which time the trophoectoderm of blastocyst can attach to endometrial epithelial cell. And there is a constant, the change is going on. In proliferative phase, there is a growth and thickening of endometrium, which cause increase in progesterone receptor expression. Finally, in the secretory phase, under progesterone influence, there is a marked differentiation of endometrial gland and stroma, which create the environment conducive to embryo implantation. And on the background, there are thousands of adhesion molecules, cytokines, and growth factor, which is working synchronously to create a good ecosystem for the proper endometrial receptivity. So this is something we know as the basic knowledge from our UG and the PG days, and the classical work of the Novet, who showed to the world that there is certain period when the endometrium is receptive and mature to receive the endometrium, and that is on the cycle 17th, 18th, or 19th, when the 14th is being the ovulation day. Then the further study says that the ART window of the implantation is around 19 to 23 days, but endometrium receptivity exists on a spectrum. Nature is very flexible and not necessarily all or nothing. When the window of implantation is not achieved or receptivity is not optimal, we can have the implantation failure, and the mild defect can result into the preeclampsia as well as the placental pathologies if there is any pregnancy. And more severe form can lead to infertility and the RPL. So this is the dynamics of endometrial receptivity. It is a highly regulated, narrow time frame between 19 to 21 days of 28 days cycle. And we need to search that when endometrium is receptive, so we transfer the embryo in the assisted reproductive technology at right time. Whenever there is any disruption in endometrium receptivity, they can result into the failure of the implantation or early pregnancy loss. So it depends. Receptivity is dependent on hormonal regulation. The embryo is also playing a very active role. It is releasing various signaling molecule and the cytokines and the growth factor which can affect it. PCOS women are more liable to have the endometrium receptivity issue because of the and the supraphysiological hormonal level, insulin resistance, chronic inflammatory state, endometrial morphological change, and the gut and the endometrial dysbiosis. The age-related decline, this I want to emphasize to the listeners that we talk about oocyte freezing and we talk about so many things, but the endometrial receptivity is also hampered in the aging. So we can solve the problem of the ovarian insufficiency or by the social egg freezing or by oocyte donor. But the older women have the significantly lower endometrial vascularization index, flow index, and the lower clinical pregnancy rate. Adenomyosis and endometriosis are the patient where we can have defective endometrial receptivity because of the decreased decellularization and the overexpression of the P450 aromatase. And the progesterone resistance, which we find in the adenomyosis and endometriosis, and that create a lot of trouble that whether we add a lot of multiple progesterone, it is going to help these patients or not. So how we diagnose endometrial receptivity? Ultrasound is the basic tool. Histological noise criteria, we are not now dependent upon the histology. MRI is not the preferred modality. And on endometrial electron microscopy, we can find pinpoint, but now study shows that they are even in the proliferative phase or the out of phase endometrium. So transvaginal ultrasound with the basic 2D, then the endometrial volume, endometrial thickness, and the blood flow at what area it is up to the last level of the endometrium. These are the basic modalities where we can assess that endometrium is receptive or not. And the endometrial blood flow is very, very important criteria. And we have few studies framed certain score point like the endometrial morphology, blood flow, thickness, volume, endometrial flow index, and the frequency of endometrial peristalsis, which has been added to the evaluation of the endometrial receptivity. When the score is less than 6, the pregnancy rate is lower, but when the score is more than 6, the pregnancy rate is higher. Shear wave elastography is another thing which has been added to endometrial receptivity evaluation, and the abnormal endometrium elasticity or the more plasticity in the endometrial tissue can hamper the endometrial receptivity. Chronic endometritis altering the endometrial receptivity, very, very common in our country. And when we take the biopsy, we can do the CD138 estimation as well as find the recurrent fluid collection or the thin endometrium or the micropolyposis, which can present as the chronic endometritis. Antibiotics are considered beneficial, but the studies are inconsistent. Thin endometrium is issue which can alter endometrial receptivity in a great way. Any uterine surgery, infection, radiation, Asherman syndrome, that can cause the thin endometrium, and we have multiple modalities. So in PCOS, the use of letrozole or tamoxifen, aspirin, endometrial scratch, and the frozen embryo transfer is the thing which we can use to deal with the improper endometrial receptivity in the PCOS. We have certain biomarkers, but still they are not much in use. But we have evolved with the great understanding that the homeobox and the genetic impression and the expression and fibroblast growth factor, which can cause the alteration in the endometrium receptivity. Now, I will just take a few minutes about the ERAS, because with the Human Genome Project, the science is redefining, medicine is being redefining, and we have come to know that when there is endometrium proper receptivity period, there is sudden awakening of the transcriptomic genes. which is consistent with the receptive endometrium, and it is more conducive to the successful implantation. But the question is, can we measure and reproduce it for the clinical purpose or not? So precision medicine, which is we do the certain labs and the doing in the difficult cases, or certain labs in universally the pre-implantation genetic testing for the aneuploidy of the embryo, and the second part that is in the mother, that can we do the precision medicine for the endometrial receptivity, and that is called the endometrium receptivity assay, which was developed as a tool to pinpoint window of implantation, and it has opened new horizons. It is how much clinically beneficial, but certainly it has given a very deep and a different understanding of the endometrium receptivity, and it is about the awakening of transcriptome gene by the DNA microarray technology. So with this genes clustering and identifying, we can categorize endometrium in the proliferative endometrium, early secretory, mid and late secretory endometrium. And these studies of the transcriptomic has been studied in natural cycle as well as the HRT cycle. First of all, Diaz-Domino in 2011 put it as the commercial test involving the 2338 genes estimation, and it showed that the ERAS results were more accurate, completely reproducible than histological dating, and can determine the personalized window of implantation regardless of what is the histological appearance of the endometrium. So this is something it's called, give the term to the ART word, is the personalized embryo transfer, because we can exactly say for this patient, this is the time when we should do the embryo transfer. Side by side, there has been revolution in the embryo cryopreservation, and freezing embryo has become a rule, and there has become a norm almost, that because we delete the all supraphysiological hormonal level and all cytokine level, and freezing embryo and ERAs actually evolved side by side. So in natural frozen embryo cycle, it is the few things which we do as a routine in the ART, that we do the ET transfer LH plus 6, HCG plus 7, and the progesterone plus 5. So we can use ERA in the context of only frozen embryo transfer. It cannot be used in the situation of the fresh embryo transfer. How the sample is taken? It is taken, the cryotube is prepared, a biopsy tissue is taken, which is vigorously shaken. It has to reach the white line where the cryotube, to preserve genetic material, it has to be stored in fridge for 4 temperature, and then it can be shipped at room temperature. Or alternatively, sample can be kept in fridge for 3 weeks, or frozen at 20 degree, minus 20 degree, minus 4 degree Fahrenheit, and then it can be shipped, and the results are usually available within 10 to 15 days. And how the result come? It is either receptive or non-receptive. In non-receptive, there will be 2 categories, post-receptive and the pre-receptive. So how we say it helps us? So if it is receptive, we do the transfer, the same thing, P plus 5, HCG plus 7. But it is a pre-receptive. If there is a pre-receptive, we delay the embryo transfer by 2 days. If it is post-receptive, we prepone the embryo transfer in frozen embryo transfer by 24 to 48 hours. So this is the beauty of ERAS, that it gives us the exact timing when the endometrium is receptive, that this is the time we should do the embryo transfer. So this is the personalized embryo transfer, and it has to be only in the frozen embryo cycle. And some people say that we should do the next ERA also, but it will make the IVF process very, very long as well as the costly. So the success of IVF, we are struggling still. It is 40 to 50%, and can ERAS be answer for few IVF failure? Actually, we are not sure that ERAS, how it has changed our success and the failure rate. So there are few studies, especially Rian Jelen, so Neelam Mahajan from our own country, who shows that when we use ERA, especially in the recurrent implantation failure, repeated IVF failure, it helps in that group of the patient, and we get the better result of the IVF process with the personalized embryo transfer. However, studies are quite inconsistent. Bargin 2021, Neves et al. 2019, they say that there can be a little benefit, but it is not statistically significant because endometrium receptivity is not a all or none on very narrow frame. It is extended over a 3 to 4 days. So a meta-analysis which includes 7052 patients, that it shows that they have certain positivity about it, but we have to choose the right patient. So medicine is art, science, and commerce, and certainly for today's time, and that they have the different now marketing the panels for the ERAS test. So it was initially 238 genes, but now there is a panel of 67 R genes, which is available with the BReady screening model. Then in Japan, where oocyte donation is actually not allowed legally, and they have more patients more than 38 years, they are using more with the ERA, and it is the BReady and the PEAK test, which is only analyzing 48 genes. So story does not end here. ERA test is a new player amidst plethora of add-on solution for RIF, but it is the concern are it is invasive, ever-changing gene sequence. It is 238, 67, or 48. And now the next generation sequencing, which has been added, an inconsistent result in studies for efficacy. So these are the few questions which we have to answer into the next few years. And the frozen embryo transfer, when IVF technology industry is more going to freeze embryo, we have come to know that the freeze embryo transfer is related to much higher incidence of hypertensive disorder, severe preeclampsia, and the large for date babies. And freeze all policy should not be the norm for the low risk patient. In adenomyosis, endometriosis is the thing where we should consider, of course, in the recurrent implantation failure, any corrected congenital abnormalities. These are the issues, situation where we should use ERAS, and we should be very properly assessing endometrial receptivity by other means. So it has got certain weakness as well as the strength. It's tough to discriminate. It is more objective, more concordant. Weakness, it is costly, forcing all freeze embryo, delays IVF. It is giving opportunity, that it has giving new insight into the understanding of the endometrium receptivity, and it is something we have to be consensus on, also taking the financial aspect of the ERAS. So patient might demand that you do ERAS, but you give the realistic counseling. In few patient, it may be very helpful, and in few patient, it may be not that helpful. We have certain new modalities like PA plus platelet-rich plasma, which is now old mesenchymal stem cell, as well as the exosomes. So finally, endometrium receptivity is still an enigma, challenge to diagnosis as well as management. Basic and advanced ultrasound markers remains the mainstay for assessing endometrium receptivity, and ERA is in a novel technology. And in adenomyosis, in recurrent implantation failure, recurrent early pregnancy loss, sometime in PCOS, it may be effective, and we need to learn more from our experience. So thank you very much. Wishing you and your family a very happy new year, and the world gives us answer each day, just we have to learn to listen. Thank you once again for this opportunity.